recommendation of resources of the highest quality in order to assure a comprehensive collection of resources appropriate for the complete education of all students. Our outcomes will be discussing overall findings while evaluating the resources, determining the top 2 primary resources based on the rubric scores. So at this point, I am going to share the rubric with you. Give me 1 second.
Yes, I have a bunch. Okay, good. Thank you.
Give me 1 second. Can everybody see it? Yes? Okay. All right, so this is the overall rubric based on the scores that we received for members that looked at both online and printed resources last week. We had 6 resources we were evaluating. We have StudySync, that's McGraw-Hill. We have Salas, My Perspective, HMH, Into Literature, Amplify, Imagine Learning, and Great Minds. So next item up on the agenda is 1.3, discussion and selection of the 6-8 ELA primary instructional resources for pilot and 60-day review. Now the committee will discuss overall findings and highlights of the 6 through 8 ELA primary instructional resources and come to a consensus on the top 2 6th through 8th grade ELA primary instructional resources for pilot and 60-day public review. Please remember that as a committee, we will place principle about personal, and I'm just repeating what I said before just to kind of emphasize that because this is really important. Opinion and reason about prejudice in the recommendation of resources of the highest quality in order to assure a comprehensive collection of resources appropriated for the complete education of all students. We are now going to look at the scores on the scoring sheet to determine the top 2 resources. If you took any notes on your rubrics, you should have your rubrics, and you are identifying a particular strength or need of a specific program, please make sure that you refer to the rubric descriptors. Would anybody like to start with their comments about specific resources?
Question about the rubric, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I did see a huge focus on writing instruction. I noticed there was grammar and writing was mentioned, but something I noticed when I was looking through most of the materials was that a lot of the writing was application and there wasn't a lot of direct instruction involved. I think the one I thought was best implementing writing was the Savas, but I didn't see any of them really reflect writing instruction, actual direct instruction, because our kids are way behind in writing. Way behind. So I wasn't sure where on the rubric, if it was just 15 or, I mean, there's vocabulary, there is application of grammar, there is 16, which is focused on types of writing tasks, but not actual direct instruction.
I did find some writing evidence in StudySync. I saw the writing process. I saw writing assessments from prompts, projects. I saw grammar lessons because I was also looking for writing. And they had writing student exemplars.
Okay, see, I haven't seen that, but I just saw the print ones today, and I was only looking at the online resources. And so I'm glad that scored high then, because that I think should be a priority.
I think it's also important to know that my mic is not on.
Your mic is on?
Did you see that in the, was it the teacher manual, the printed version?
We went through
Okay.
yeah.
See, I was on the.
And the only thing I saw in my perspectives, I saw writing models.
See, and I looked at the teacher manual because that was available digitally, and I saw a lot of application of writing, and remind them to do this, remind them to do that. It wasn't, here's how to break it down for them. Yeah.
I believe Study Sync has the units of study related to different genres of writing.
Okay, see, I couldn't find that online, and I flipped through the teacher manual, but I didn't see that. So that's promising, and I'm glad that's a focus.
So are we basing it just off of the scores? No.
So maybe before we continue the conversation, we could at least look at the scores to determine who are the top potentially, potential resources for selection. If you look at the bottom of the scores, the highest score, I need my glasses a little bit adjusted, it seems to be Sava's My Perspective. One very close after that is Study Sync, that's McGraw-Hill. Then we have HMH into Literature as a third one. Fourth one would be Amplify. Fifth one would be Imagine Learning. And sixth one would be Great Minds. And that's the Wit and Wisdom, Great Minds. So it looks like the top three so far is Study Sync, My Perspectives, and Into Literature.
Are there any that we can eliminate based upon the scores that you are seeing and or your rubric?
Completely eliminate?
Yep.
Great minds.
Okay, so
I think Imagine.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Imagine Learning I was not impressed with.
Neither of those, actually.
Yeah, I have experience teaching Great Minds in the past, and from the teacher perspective, I was able to look at it at many different grade levels, and there are some gaps in Great Minds, just to be honest. Teaching it, it's picture books, usually, is how it's based, and depending, the younger grades might be great, but older grades, picture books are not that deep, and they spend 10 weeks with one picture book. Wow. In addition to that,
No.
there is no direct writing instruction. Instead, we are encouraged to create a PowerPoint and copy. The students are copying what is written by the textbook. There is no them taking it upon themselves to find information. It is, here's what's given, copy it, now write an essay. There is no time to practice. It is a lot of, you're gonna copy it, and then every Friday we're writing an essay on what you copied. So just, in addition to that, with Great Minds, you can't deviate. You must be on lesson every day. And the lessons are 2 hours to 2.5 hours. Okay. So if you are not a school that has a 2-hour block for ELA, you will be behind every day. Okay. That's just my personal
Thank you for the
experience with
insight. So can we vote on this one to eliminate from the list? Are we okay?
Yeah.
So if you agree to eliminate Great Minds, thumbs up please. And it looks like our online committee has the same opinion. Okay, so let's take Great Minds out. Do we have any comments about Imagine Learning? You mentioned that you were not very impressed with that. Is that one that,
Right, I wrote down.
or are we okay eliminating it?
I'm okay eliminating it. There was no accommodations at all for differentiation or scaffolding for special education.
Okay.
It looks like their online system was like a random lesson drive, like with 50,000 lessons for a teacher use. I would think it would be very confusing.
Okay. Are we okay to vote to eliminate? Yes? Let's see, online committee. Let's wait for your thumbs.
I have thumbs up from Bree and Jen. Are you okay to eliminate Imagine Learning? And Samantha's got a thumbs up.
Did Esper respond? Oh,
She got twins.
That's okay.
okay. So we're
I think we
really
have a
not-
majority.
Okay. Okay, the next one is Amplify, so that's the next lowest score. Are we okay to vote to eliminate this program?
I'm okay to vote yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thumbs up if you're okay. Okay, we have a comment here, it looks like it.
Oh, no, there's
No.
no.
Just
Oh,
a
that's just a
thumbs
thumbs up, I just hit.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, that's just me. Okay, great, so we're down to study sync Sabbath and into literature. They're, all three are pretty close.
I have experience with spacing, and in my experience, we had to get an outside writing
As a
curriculum
supplement.
because it was not strong enough. It also is very much, they want you to write essays for all of the assessments, and they were not editable, in my experience. So the assessments were not editable at all. Like I couldn't differentiate, I couldn't do a version for gen ed kids and a version for spec kiddos, I could not do that.
And this was a recent experience with the
Within the
program?
last 4 years, yes.
Okay.
Just before I came into the district.
I think also if writing is a focus, that the into literature is one where there is no direct instruction. They have that writable tool, but I've heard nothing but complaints about teachers about it.
I was intrigued by the tool, like I was wondering, so
It
what was
sounds
your,
cool,
what, yeah,
but the kids struggle with it. It's glitchy. I've heard teachers say that there's no direct instruction component, so the kids just play around on it, but they're just applying the skills. They never get better at them because they're not getting actual help. They're just getting scored on what their skills already are. So, and I did check into it a little bit and watch some tutorials, and it seemed like an interesting tool, but it's just a tool. It's not actual instruction. And it's, yeah, I don't.
it's an AI providing feedback when the student types them, at least based on my understanding, right?
Yeah,
Which seemed very intriguing, but, you know, if it's not really.
it does, but from an application standpoint,
Okay.
I don't think it would really support learning.
Are there any positive comments or strengths that you all found with into literature? Because if not, then your data is speaking for you, right? So
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Those top two are the best.
is anybody absolutely advocating for into literature?
I'm not advocating, but I did think there was a positive.
Well, I found some positives, but I'm not necessarily advocating.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel the
I
same
mean, the
way.
grammar aligns.
Yeah, the grammar was, I didn't feel like the grammar was in context. That was my only issue, but there was heavy on the grammar, which I like.
Right. I mean, like for 8th grade, it was verbals and active and passive voice, which is hard to find. Hard to find examples, hard, I mean, I have to make a lot of stuff up.
Okay.
But that doesn't.
My thing with into literature, the positives were two main ones. I felt the text was relevant for the grade levels, you know, that the students had. And also, this is the same company that publishes collections, and when you look at the format of into literature for teachers using collections, it makes it very easy to navigate because they have experience, have had experience in the past, so this would be an easier one to learn.
Or transition to.
Or transition to, it's very similar in that, but it seems like an updated version of collections. I could see the text being much more relevant and definitely has more appealing.
Reading is their strong suit,
Yes,
period.
absolutely.
Writing,
Okay.
not
Okay.
so much. Yeah. I mean, every teacher has experience with HMH, so.
Anybody online, Bree, Jen, Samantha, any information you'd like to give in regards to into literature? Go ahead, Bree.
So I thought the exact same thing as Susanna, like regarding it's almost the exact same as collections. And yes, while it would be easy to learn, I think about how I use it in my classroom, and it's not something that my kids or I want to use because it's so dry, and it doesn't provide enough. And so that's the hard thing is, yes, it's great and it'll be easy to put into the classroom, but it's not something that is what we want to. Like, we're adopting a new curriculum because what we have isn't working, so.
I agree with that too. I mean, there are some positive aspects to collections that I've had over the years too. I mean, the workbooks were nice too, but, as for the content and the material that's involved, some of it's dry, kids are not motivated by it. I find myself implementing different things along the way, so, but like you just said, Brianna, you know, we're looking for something that's better, incorporating hopefully novels within it too, you know, so I agree.
So what I'm hearing is, you would prefer, from the online committee members, that you would probably prefer a different resource, and then we have, the three of us, even though we stated some positives, we were not necessarily swayed by it or convinced that we should be pushing for it. So are we okay to vote? Are we okay to vote to eliminate it?
Yes.
Are we okay? Good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, well,
He just wants to participate, guys. He's gonna be a committee member soon.
well, based on this, I guess that we have decided then that the two resources that will be considered for the pilot and the 60-day review will be StudySync and Sava's My Perspectives. We are going to then move along to agenda item number 1.4, upcoming committee meetings. You should all have access to it, to the timeline. Hopefully. Not. Looking in Word docs. I'll just follow it.
Sorry about that, guys.
You're
We
fine.
loved it.
So we would do the November 13th.
I'm gonna pull it up for you, Susanna.
Yes, thank you so much. No, I assumed that because it's on the Word docs, we all have access to it. Next one we have is the governing board meeting on November 13th, when we are presenting these two resources to the governing board for review, and we will begin piloting. So that will be our next step. And then you are you going to present it?
I can, yep.
Could you please? I really appreciate it.
Can you stop presenting?
Yes, I will.
So will these be piloted like 50-50? Like some teachers are trying one.
They will
the other-
pilot both,
At the same
so that they
time.
can really.
No. One at a
No,
time.
one, and then the next one. No, no.
I mean, we're good, but we're not that
I was
good.
like, that's only a lot to juggle.
Ladies, get on that. Can you imagine?
Good luck.
Okay, Susanna. Oh, I'm sorry. How about share this tab? Okay.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so November 13th, we are presenting this to the governing board as two resources for pilot, and then our next meeting is going to be on November 15th. That will include the vendor showcase. Okay, the vendor showcase for the first resource, and training for the first resource, and then we have our January, and then at that point we are starting the pilot for the first resource, and then we'll move on to January 31st, when we have the vendor showcase and presentation training for teachers that are piloting it, and then we'll move into the pilot. And I'll stop there. I don't think that we need to go through every single list, because now we are like into
Sure,
2024.
so just further explanation, starting on November 14th,
Mm-hmm.
the two resources will be put on public review for 60 days while you guys begin your pilot, okay? So we'll start both of them in a 60-day public review, thank you. 60-day public review, so that when you get to your final decision, they have already been reviewed by the public, and you can listen to what the public has to weigh in on both of those resources. Does that make sense? On November 15th, that will be like, committee members, just be prepared, especially teachers. That will be like drinking from a fire hose,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they are going to train you to use the program beginning the next day, right? And so we will work with the vendors to make sure that they're following our pacing so that you guys are not off on essential standards or anything like that, right?
Yes.
And it's not affecting our students' academic progress. We want to keep them on track. When you come back on January 31st, there will be some online rubric or something like that that you'll give us more information, because now you've actually used it, right? And we'll just kind of put that aside, we'll put it aside, and then you'll start your next pilot right after January 31st. You'll take it all in, you'll start the pilot, and then on Wednesday, March 27th, we'll have information for both of them. Does that make sense? So every teacher gets to pilot both of the resources so that it isn't like this group is against this group and we're just gonna battle it out, right?
Listen to you.
Yeah. So you get to pilot both of the resources equally. Okay, we find that to be the best way to do the pilot. I mean, it's tough, but it's good for you to feel them both.
Also for student engagement, I mean,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity with the same group of students to see which one they
And
find
your
more
middle
relevant.
school kids will give you
They'll
input.
be honest.
They
They're
will,
very honest.
they will give you input. They did for our 6A science as well as our
Yes.
6A social studies, so.
What did you guys end up going for with social studies? Was it the Sabbath?
To stay on agenda topic,
Oh, sorry.
I will tell you
Sorry,
in
my
just a
husband was on
moment.
that
Yeah.
committee, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
Well, that bridged very nicely to our last
Yeah.
agenda item, 1.5, which is adjournment of the meeting. I want to thank you for taking your time from your busy schedule, coming to join us virtually and in person to participate in our 6-8 ELA primary resource adoption. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I am going to adjourn the meeting at 5:28 p.m.
Nice.
My world.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you
Awesome.
guys.
I have a question. We're done, right?
Yeah. Any other questions? You're
Okay,
done?
there's a question.
Do we need to be at the board meeting on Monday?
Yes.
No, you do not.